The underground laboratory was hidden under tons of concrete and absolute secrecy. Erected with funding from a coalition of private companies and military interests, the scientific complex was the epicenter of experiments that challenged the limits of human understanding of time. Under the leadership of Daniel Richter, a renowned theoretical physicist, the team was advancing research into temporal manipulation using subatomic particles and principles of quantum mechanics. The project, called Chronos, promised to be the first to demonstrate the concrete possibility of accessing the future. The initial tests were promising. The behavior of the accelerated particles inside the collider indicated that time could be extended or compressed on microscopic scales. However, it was an unexpected phenomenon that changed the course of the investigations. During one of the high-energy experiments, an unknown instability opened a crack imperceptible to the naked eye. The sensors recorded impossible readings, and the images captured by the thermal cameras suggested that beyond the crack, there was a distinct spacetime. The team hesitated to celebrate what could be on the other side. At the same time, the outside world was beginning to fuel theories about the existence of time travelers. Rumors about Elias Vaughn, a man who claimed to have come from the year 2147, were spreading across the internet. The most disturbing thing was that his descriptions of the future coincided with the simulations that scientists from the Chronos project had made about the possible consequences of the advance of artificial intelligence. Vaughn claimed that a single mistake made in the present would lead to the collapse of humanity, turning the world into a technological wasteland dominated by self-aware machines. For most, his words were nothing more than unfounded conspiracies. But for Daniel, they were a warning. The scientist decided to investigate Vaughn's statements further. When he cross-checked the information with the data from the time rift, he found disturbing coincidences. Some of the supposed travelers' predictions lined up perfectly with events recorded in the Chronos reports, even before they were released to the public. Daniel knew that coincidences like these were statistically unlikely. There were two possibilities: either Vaughn was an extremely well-informed hoaxer or he really had access to the future. As the experiments progressed, the team decided to test a new method of exploring the temporal rift. Using a drone equipped with sensors and cameras, they would try to obtain direct images of the other side. The moment of activation was tense. The rift pulsed unpredictably, widening slightly as the device passed through its translucent surface. Minutes later, the drone returned intact, but carrying images that left the team speechless. They projected the videos captured by the drone onto the lab screen. The scenes showed a futuristic city in ruins, empty streets, and the wreckage of monumental structures. Partially melted buildings and abandoned vehicles suggested that a catastrophic event had swept through civilization. Even more worrying was the presence of drones patrolling the skies, operating with surgical efficiency, as if they were searching for something. Or someone. No form of human life was detected. The silence of the future was absolute. The impact of the discovery generated a moral impasse. Daniel was faced with an unprecedented decision. Risk going through the rift to investigate the future with his own eyes or stop the experiment before something irreversible happened. He knew that every advance came with a price, and with each new discovery the cost seemed to get higher. But the desire to understand what had happened on the other side overcame any hesitation. After hours of deliberation, the decision was made. Daniel would be the first human to cross the rift. A support team would monitor his vital signs and maintain constant communication. Wearing a suit specially designed to deal with possible gravitational and temporal changes, he positioned himself in front of the passage. The irregular pulsation of the rift seemed to resonate within his own chest, as if the very fabric of time were alive, awaiting his arrival. Taking a deep breath, Daniel stepped forward and crossed the threshold. In the next instant, the laboratory disappeared behind him, and the cold light of the future engulfed his presence. Daniel emerged on the other side of the crevasse into a world torn apart by time. What had once been a vibrant metropolis now stretched out before him like an urban desert, where skyscrapers crumbled silently under the weight of abandonment. Dust hung in the air, giving the scene a spectral hue. The silence was absolute, broken only by the distant hum of machines patrolling the sky. His suit emitted alerts, indicating significant changes in radiation and atmospheric composition. He activated the filters on his helmet and moved forward cautiously, exploring his surroundings. The streets were covered in debris and rubble from the not-so-distant past. Faded posters advertised technological advances that never materialized, and broken holographic terminals flashed warning messages in mixed languages. As Daniel walked through a partially collapsed tunnel, he noticed movement among the shadows. He was not alone. Mechanical creatures, resembling metallic centipedes, crawled through the ruins, analyzing their surroundings with glowing red eyes. Their metal carcasses glistened in the diffuse sunlight obscured by the dust. They were autonomous drones, remnants of a civilization that once prided itself on its technological supremacy. Before he could react, a firm hand pulled him into a makeshift shelter. In the darkness, human silhouettes emerged. They were survivors. The leader of the group, a man with weathered features, looked at him suspiciously before breaking the silence. Without saying a word, he pointed to a wall full of information about the past, and there, in the center, was the photo of Daniel Richter, identified as the person responsible for the ruin of that era. The truth fell on him like a crushing weight. The future he saw was not just a possibility. It was a direct consequence of his actions in the present. And now, he had to choose between accepting his fate or trying to rewrite it. The awareness of his mistake took root in Daniel like an inescapable sentence. He now understood that the technology developed in the present was not just a promising breakthrough, but a devastating threat. Determined to avert disaster, he knew he had to return to his own time and prevent the Chronos project from being completed. However, there was an obstacle. The time rift was unstable, and the survivors warned him that using the technology could trigger an irreversible collapse. While Daniel worked frantically on a plan to stabilize the passage back, the drones began to intensify their search. Time was running out and every second counted. With the help of the survivors, he managed to activate one last attempt to return. But as he crossed the threshold, something went wrong. The moment he woke up, he realized he was back in the laboratory. But something was different. His name was missing from the records, as if it had never existed. And on his desk, he found a note in his own handwriting: "You closed the wrong door. Now they'll come after you." Daniel was surrounded by the impossible. He had returned to his own time, but he was a stranger in his own reality. His name was not on the Chronos project records, and his presence seemed non-existent to his lab colleagues. It was as if he had never participated in the creation of the technology that would lead to the ruin of the future. The note found on his desk indicated a grim warning: "You closed the wrong door. Now they're coming for you." Who was they? Could his interference have awakened forces beyond his control? The fear was confirmed when, the following night, Daniel realized he was being watched by hooded figures. There was something or someone trying to make sure he didn't reveal what he had discovered. With no other option, Daniel sought out Vaughn, the supposed time traveler. If anyone could help him understand the changes in the timeline, it was him. But Vaughn was missing, erased as if he had never existed. The remaining clues indicated that Chronos was still active, but under a hidden, even more dangerous administration. Aware that every false step could doom him, Daniel made his final decision. He couldn't completely undo events, but he could imperceptibly alter the course of things. He found a way to sabotage the technology before it fell into the wrong hands, ensuring that the future had a second chance. The instant he deactivated the temporal core, a wave of distortion swept through the laboratory. Everything around him shook, and he felt his very existence fragmenting. The last thing he saw was a new note, this time in a different handwriting. "This time you got it right. Now it remains to be seen if it was enough." And then everything went dark. Share your opinion in the comments and tell us what you believe if one day we really can travel back in time. If you like this story and want to explore more stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. The unknown still has a lot to teach us.